I'm sure we have all had dreams, but I highly doubt that it comes close to the dream Logan experienced. This is Logan's story. The night was pitch black. The wind howled outside, rattling the trees. The sounds were relentless as it echoed in my ears. The silence of my house was amplified by what sounded like a storm. As I laid my head down exhausted due to my demanding job, I drifted away not long after. It began subtly, and it was always the same. A desolate, fog-shrouded moor. A lone, gnarled tree, barely visible through the mist, beckoning me closer. I would wake up in a cold sweat, my heart pounding. The image burned into my mind. It had gotten to a point where I saw doctors, therapists, even a sleep specialist. They all offered the same explanations: stress, anxiety, sleep disorders. I had a feeling that none of them even believed me when I described it. The eerie sense of dread that clung to me even after I woke. They prescribed pills, relaxation techniques, anything to make me better, but nothing worked. The dreams continued, growing more vivid, more prolonged. The raging wind in my dream would even cause problems in my real life. Now, whenever the wind blows hard, it puts me in a state of fear and stress. I started to withdraw. My friends stopped calling as much, tired of my constant exhaustion and increasingly erratic behavior. My job performance even began suffering, so now all that mattered was understanding what was happening to me. I spent hours researching, poring over old books, searching online forums, desperate for an answer. I found stories, old myths, tales of restless spirits and ancient curses. I didn't believe it at first, but as the days turned into weeks, my worry only grew. One night, the dream was a bit different. There was a dark figure standing beside the tree. I couldn't make out who it was, but its outstretched hand was distinct, pointing toward something. I looked in the direction it was pointing, and through the swirling mist I saw it. A crumbling stone structure, barely visible. I woke up with a gasp. I recognized the structure. It was like I had driven past it or something one time before. I was certain that it was real. The next day, I packed a bag with a slight idea of where it was located, and with this relentless urge to find it, I drove for hours, hoping that I was right about the location. The landscape slowly changed, the urban sprawl giving way to rolling hills, and then, finally, to an open grassland. The fog began to roll in, thick and heavy, just like in my dreams. My heart began beating more rapidly against my ribs. Fear creeped in, but more than anything else, I felt a slight sense of hope. I was getting closer. I pulled over on a deserted stretch of road, the car swallowed by the swirling mist. I stepped out, the chill air biting at my exposed skin. The silence was absolute, broken only by the mournful cry of a distant bird. I started walking, deeper into the fog. The ground was uneven, covered in gnarled roots. I stumbled, my ankle twisting, but I pushed on, the image of the crumbling structure pulling me forward, and then I saw it. Just as in my dream, a crumbling stone structure, its ancient stones covered in moss and lichen. It was a ruin, clearly very old, its purpose long forgotten. A shiver ran down my spine, not just from the cold, but from a profound sense of unease. This was the place. This was where the dreams had been leading me. I approached cautiously, my heart pounding. The air grew colder, and I could feel a strange pressure, a weight in the atmosphere. The wind began to speed up, and it sounded like whispers as it grew louder. I reached out a hand, my fingers brushing against the cold, rough stone. It felt ancient, imbued with a history I couldn't comprehend. As my fingers touched the stone, a jolt went through me, a surge of energy that made my teeth ache. The wind intensified, and for a moment, I thought I heard a faint voice calling my name. I pulled my hand back, my breath catching in my throat. This was more than just a dream. This was real, I thought, and whatever was here, it wanted something from me. I looked around, the fog obscuring everything beyond a few feet. I was truly alone. A sense of dread settled over me. I wanted to run, to get back in my car and drive away, never looking back, but I couldn't. Something held me there, a morbid curiosity, a desperate need to understand. I took a deep breath and began walking through the tunnel. Inside, it was even darker, the little light from outside barely penetrating the dark. The air was heavy with that earthy smell and something else. I fumbled in my bag for my flashlight. my hand trembling. The beam cut through the darkness, showing a sharp turn to the left, and as I made that turn, in the distance was a small, circular chamber. The walls were rough stone, and in the center, a large flat slab of rock, like an altar. This wasn't just a ruin. It was a place of ritual. On the slab, faint, faded carvings were visible, strange symbols I didn't recognize. The dimmed and foggy light shining through the hole in the ceiling revealed it to me. I shined my flashlight over the strange symbols to get a slightly clearer view. Then a sudden gust of wind swept through the chamber. I could feel a presence, a cold, oppressive weight pressing down on me. Panic began to set in, but I still stayed needing answers. The wind continued to roar relentlessly. As I scanned my surroundings, there it was, a figure that just stood there, motionless by the stone walls. Then it hit me. Could this be the figure from my dreams? The face was still hidden, obscured, but I could feel its gaze, a cold, ancient malevolence that pierced me to the bone. It raised a hand, pointing directly at me. The wind suddenly started to roar even louder than before. I screamed, a raw, primal sound that was swallowed by the overwhelming noise. I closed my eyes, desperate to escape the horrifying sight, but it was no use. I felt trapped. I don't know how long I stood there, paralyzed by fear. It felt like an eternity. The roar of wind slowly began to fade. A jolt more powerful than before coursed through my body, a searing pain that made me cry out. And then, just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. As I opened my eyes, the figure had seemed to vanish in thin air. The wind went silent. I stood there trembling, my heart still hammering. My hand was still shaking. Even though the chamber was now empty, the stone slab was still there, the carvings still visible. The raging wind had gone. The figure was gone. The oppressive presence was gone. I stumbled out of the chamber, my legs weak, my mind reeling. The fog outside had lifted. It was silent, as if nothing had happened. I stumbled back to my car, my body aching, my mind a chaotic mess of fear and confusion. I started the engine, my hands fumbling with the keys. Then I sped away, not daring to look back. I drove for hours. I didn't stop until I reached the familiar streets of my town. I pulled into my driveway, the house looking strangely normal, mundane even. After what I had just experienced, I walked inside, the silence of the house no longer comforting, but chilling. I looked in the mirror, my reflection pale and drawn, and then I saw it, on my forehead, just above my right eyebrow, a faint, almost invisible scratch, and it looked exactly like the first symbol I had shined my flashlight on. From the stone slab, it seemed to have etched onto my skin. I was confused, baffled. A cold dread washed over me. This seemed like unfinished business. The dreams had led me there, and now I was marked. I didn't know what it meant or what would happen next. Now, of course, he stated that this happened to him 2 years ago, and he is perfectly fine now. Even the mark above his eyebrow has disappeared. But he does still carry unanswered questions about the figure he had seen inside the chamber. Was he just hallucinating? And why he kept having the same dream. By the way, the location is in fact a real place according to Logan, but he did not share it with me or anything like that. However, I do have my suspicions that I'll keep to myself, and as for the dream he had, he no longer has it anymore. But anyway, until next time.